Solomon Islands' focus has been about keeping COVID-19 at bay. And when this announcement came out, people were a bit anxious because this flight was going right to the source of where COVID-19 started from. And this was the argument that many people took, including church leaders, community groups, and of course, Malaysia Premier Daniel Sudani, who's been really raising his concern about how the government is dealing with COVID-19, and especially this flight, which came in last night.
Have they put in special provisions in place to manage people coming in? Will they go into quarantine?
Well, all these measures are already in place because Solomon Islands has already had over 800 people coming in from overseas, from Australia, that have come in and gone into quarantine and have their centres here in Honiara that will keep them over the quarantine period, 14 days or so. So all these measures are already there in place, but people are really anxious about this flight from China, which came through already.
The Solomons, of course, switched allegiance from Taiwan to China last year, so there's a lot more Chinese investment coming in. Is the sentiment playing into the opposition to this flight?
We saw when the switch happened last year, there was a lot of opposition publicly about the changeover from Taiwan to China, and particularly from Malaysia province, which is pretty much the only province that's been focused on Taiwan as their diplomatic partner, so to say. Earlier we saw there were issues with COVID-19 equipment that came through from Taiwan to Malaysia province that was confiscated by the national government. That's been returned, but they see this as just the next step, and the government being hypocritical in a way that it's talking about keeping Solomon safe, but it's flying out to China.
And exactly how much investment are you seeing from China happening over there at the moment?
Well, right at the moment, we actually haven't seen anything on the ground yet. There are plans. There's talk about the Pacific Games, which is coming up in 2023. And this flight did bring in officials who would come in to help with the planning stage, which is about to build a new stadium and other facilities. So it's quite a big deal, this flight, which will bring people over to start the process of investment and infrastructure.
What is the likelihood of Malaysia province actually getting independence?
It'll be a very long process. So what they've announced right now is a referendum. The exact details of how that will work aren't really clear right now. But what we do know is that they'll go out and talk to people around the province about what they're planning to do and their thoughts about this. But the actual process for independence will be a lengthy one, it'll be a long one. But this is something they've talked about for decades. They've been agitating for independence, although this is the first time that we're hearing about referendum. And that's at the stage where we are right now.
Yeah, and is the government of Solomon Islands opposed to any independence for Malaysia?
The government hasn't actually come out and said their position on this, but it's expected that this isn't something that they'd be really very keen on working on seeing happen. Well, I spoke to a member of parliament from Malaysia province. His name is Peter Kenlory Jr., and he was saying it's a pretty tricky call, and it has to be balanced between Malaysia's right to self-determination, but also Solomon Islands' future as a nation. So it's something that's probably will be very difficult for a lot of people, because lots of Malaysians are all over Solomon Islands, here in Honiara and all around the country, and they'll be thinking twice about this as well.
There's been a fair bit of anti-China violence. Do you think this could flare up again?
Well, we did see the other day that there were some concerns raised in Auckland town, that's the capital of Malaysia, where a group went out and issued a notice wanting Chinese businesses to shut down and leave Auckland within 24 hours because of this flight that came through. Police have intervened and they mediated, and they came to an agreement that returned the situation back to normal. But there's always this tension around. In 2006, we had Chinatown riots here in Honiara. So I think the authorities are keeping a very close eye on what's happening right now.
Evan, good to talk. Thanks so much.
Thanks.